Now the resin's starting to flow up the crack a little ways. Then we need to get our curing film ready. And this is where I like to use the thin curing film. About that much film. Bend it back so you can find the end. And if I have a nice straight crack, I'll take and roll the curing film up over my 6-inch probe. And as we get working, we're going to put a little excess resin on top of the crack, put the curing film down, and then as I go along filling the crack, I'll just unroll the film along behind me. And the film keeps the resin on the crack and keeps gravity from pulling the resin back out once you've got it into this crack. If you've got one that has some curve to it, you can either use short pieces. Some guys just like to tear off like 1-inch sections. When they fill the resin in the crack, throw a piece of curing film, fill the next section, throw another piece of curing film. We've got a close view now of this crack, and a couple minutes have went by, and you notice that the first section of the crack has disappeared. That's because the resin has flown up from the pressure from the resin pump up to this area right here. Now if you were to look straight down on this crack, you would still see what we call a skeleton view, the top edge and bottom edge. But since you're looking at a side like this, you're looking right through it. And this is important whenever you're trying to fill cracks. If you're trying to fill a star brake that has 4 or 5 cracks coming out from it in different directions, no matter where you look, you're going to see the skeleton edge of some of those cracks. Yet if you take your head over and look through the side of the crack, it disappears. It is full of resin. Skeleton edge will always show, but from the side a crack will be full when it has resin in it. Now when you're working on these, try not to flex the glass. Do not put your elbow on it. Don't mess with it. Even all brakes, you shouldn't be slamming the car door while you have the brake under pressure. But it's very important on these cracks that once you fill this crack with resin, do not flex it. Do not push your UV lamp on very hard. If you do, you'll suck air all the way up and down this crack and it won't look very good. Okay, now that the resin's out a little ways, we can go ahead and continue. We're going to do a technique called hand feeding the crack. And you can do this from your 1/2 ounce dropper tip bottle, you can do it from the pipette. And all we're going to do is put a drop of resin on the crack, and caliper action is going to pull this drop of resin down in and fill the crack. Down here at the beginning it's very tight and it takes a little while to get going, and as we move on out the crack will actually fill faster and faster. Now if you can see on your screen, I've put the pipette on, I've put a drop of resin there, and I haven't moved the pipette, but the resin is starting to flow down in that crack. It's a very slow process here at the beginning. It takes quite a bit of time. But on a crack like this, charge them more. Average price at this time is around $35, $38 in the nation. And if you come up and work on a crack like this, don't be afraid to charge $50. Now some areas of the nation are higher, some are lower, but that's just to give you an idea that if you're going to take your expertise and fill a crack and use the extra time, the extra resin, you can get some more money for it. Okay, we've got the crack filled out now, a little bit over 1 inch away from the resin pump. And we're going to go back in and put the curing film now on the crack to keep the resin from falling out. To do this, we go back, put a little extra resin on, Squirt it above the crack, and by the time we get the curing film down, it'll be just about where we want it, right above the crack. Okay, again, that will hold the resin in the crack while we go ahead and finish on. Just have to have a little patience. The resin doesn't take that long to fix. A lot of times I can get these fixed before I can a combination. Again, remember, do not put your elbows on the glass. Do not flex this crack for anything, or else it'll draw air back behind you. And it's not actually pressure taking that resin in. You're not forcing the resin in. The resin is just pulling itself in as it goes along. And I try to keep the drop of resin right behind the leading edge of as it's filling up. If I get the resin out in the front on the section of crack that hasn't got resin in it yet, it'll trap air behind. So keep the drop available, but right behind the front edge of the resin. Now you can flex these cracks from the inside using another holding device and resin pump. This is a little dangerous to do because, as you saw how I broke this glass, you push from the inside and it causes these cracks to expand very quickly. Throw a little resin above the crack, roll the curing film over where we've just filled it, and continue on across the glass. You can see the resin's going in faster and faster. The farther out this crack I get, the more open it is. Here's a little closer view showing you the drop of resin and how it goes in and fills it up. Again, notice I'm just right behind the leading edge with my pipette holding the resin in place. And don't squeeze much resin out, it'll just run down the windshield. Just have the drop right there and just try to ride it along. We've got the crack completely filled now. It's right through here. This edge you see here is the bottom edge of the film. The crack is right up here in the center. And we're going to place our UV lamp on the crack. If you fix a long crack, you can put your lamp behind you and be curing one end of the crack while you're down 6 or 8 inches working on the other end of it. Of course, if you're outside, you remove your UV screen and let the sunlight hit the crack. As you cure them, give them a little more time than what you would a normal break. If the sun's shining, it's daylight, give 4 or 5 minutes of lamp time per section of the crack, and then let the sun go ahead and finish the repair. It takes, with a 12-volt lamp, in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 minutes to set the resin up good and cured. Now, we normally cure for a couple, 3 minutes, go ahead and get our money and go on down the street. But if you've got a crack that may take off and run on you, give a good 5 minutes of lamp time and maybe 7 minutes. Of course, again, if the sun's shining, you can go ahead and pull off and let the sun take over. Don't let the people take the car out and go down to a car wash and then take that 120-degree windshield and pour cold water on it. You might warn them not to wash it for a couple days until the thing has a chance to set up properly. And after we've cured one section, we just move the lamp over. Now, I'm not pushing the lamp down using the suction cups. I'll take the cord up to the top of the glass, take my black electrician's tape, tape the cord down, and that'll hold the lamp in place. You cannot flex the windshield. If you move this, you'll cause the crack to suck air all the way along it. Now that the crack is cured up, the resin inside, we'll take our resin pump assembly off, put our curing tab over the brake, and there's not enough resin there to even hold it in, so we'll have to come in and put a drop of resin on it, and now the tab will hold itself there. Our lamp on. This time we're down to just curing the drill hole in the pit area, so we're able to go ahead and push the lamp on. Take the lamp off, touch the side of the curing tab here to make sure that the resin's cured underneath. It's hard, so we'll peel that off. Take the curing film off the crack, just lay this up. You can reuse it if you're ready to do another crack. And we're going to slice the resin away. Of course, we back scrape over the pit area. And our crack is running right through here. As you can see, these can turn out real nice if they're clean.